And hello, and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox. My name is Alex, and let's continue our Fanart project on Rebirth vs Transformers. Yep. So today is going to be probably the hardest session ever, because we're actually going to try to figure out materials, which is a super complex subject by itself. And again, I have like basic knowledge about materials, but this is the first time that I'm actually applying this knowledge into the project of some kind, like consciously. That's why it's going to be definitely a challenging thing. So yeah, previously we for the most part worked on trying to figure out the type of subjects that we are going to work with in our illustration. We already kind of know what subjects are present in here. The only reason why we actually worked on depicting them in this chart is just for the sake of not keeping all this information in our mind at the same time and having something to look at. So basically we are, like, I don't know, freeing the space in our mind for more important things to do in the particular stages. Yeah, so basically it's some sort of a delegating of how it's properly pronounced in English. Let's see. Delegation of authority? I don't know. Doesn't seem right for this particular instance, but something like this. So basically we are delegating a particular tasks in two different, I don't know, stages? Whatever. So today we're actually going to try to depict our material type, and from that we're actually going to work on the figuring out the specific properties for this particular type of material. The hardest job is going to be to just actually figure out the properties, because material properties are pretty diverse, and there's a lot of them, and in combination with each other they actually make work even harder. But by themselves they are not that complex. But again, for inexperienced artists, it's always going to be hard, no matter how simple things are. You could simplify them to super simple things and it's still going to be hard. And this is actually supposed to be, because every time that we're learning something new that we're not familiar with, we need time to adjust to it. So it's just how things work. We just need to face it and accept it positively and just push through it. So yep. Okay, so okay. So let's just dive in and right into the thing. So let's just call this one text. It's going to be, yeah, text. This one is going to be called, actually this is text too. Let's just combine them. This is going to be our, I don't know, chart lines. This is going to be a chart colors. That's kind of it. Organized a bit. Okay. Okay. Mr. Monkey. Okay. So yeah, I think we will start with the simple things and then we will go to the complex things, because these are, for the most part, are pretty simple. Materials for these type of elements, for the most part, or for these type of subjects, are relatively simple. But the further we go, the more complex materials become. Not in particular order though, but because, for instance, material for the wall is definitely going to be much simpler than material for the quintessa, because material for the quintessa is definitely going to be super unique. So yeah, let's just go dive into. We have a lot of work to do. Boom. So again, when I'm talking about type, we're just going to pick like the simple general idea of the type of material. For instance, like I talked about it previously, so table, from what this table is actually made of. So is this a metal? Is this a wood or plastic? We just go into think in general, and then we actually go into the specifics by understanding the actual properties. Because, for instance, we could place, for instance, for statues, metal. For chairs, metal. And everywhere is going to be metal, but this metal is going to have different material properties. So we just need to understand the basic type, just to categorize things, and then to explain their differences. Yep. So again, talking about background, it's going to be something in here. I still don't know what I'm going to put there, because I don't know if I should put something in there, but I think I need to put something in there. And I want to make it actually the area light, so I want it to shine and create this. I think I need references, actually, to find more references how to actually properly depict this, because without references I don't have a clear understanding what's going to be, how this like gate is going to be represented as the light source, and at the same time has to have something on the background to vaguely showcase the environment of the planet. So this is something that I definitely need to think about. So for now I'm going to skip background, not going to work for the materials for the background. For the most part, materials for the background are going to be pretty diverse. I don't know if I'm going to put sand in there, so some type of sand probably going to be visible, some type of metal structures are going to be there, so a lot of things. Maybe actually we will create a separate theme for the background, the same as we actually created for table accessories and birds. This is something to explore. Okay. Boom. And also, of course, we have probably 1.5 hours to do this. For time I'm just basically trying to focus and put my mind into artistic thinking. So yeah, let's just skip background for now. Let's just go with the table. Again, table is definitely going to be created from the wood. It's actually going to be a pretty good contrast, because everything around is going to be things from the Cybertron, and almost everything in Cybertron made from metal, of some kind of metal, or different types of metal, which kind of makes things pretty similar. And by creating this slight depiction of a different world presence, because this table Angry Birds are actually brought like by themselves from their world, which actually don't have that much metal to it, so a lot of wood. I think it would be a good thing to actually depict table as the wooden material. So yeah, let's just put it wood. Wood. Okay. Floor and ceiling. For the most part, floor and ceiling needs to be metal. Like, again, this is Cybertron. Everything in Cybertron made from metal. So this is definitely going to be a metal. By the way. Metal. So floor and ceiling definitely going to be a metal. Tablecloth, of course, going to be some type of a garment. No, not garment. Whatever. That was a mistake. Wrong word to use. Just cloth material. Yeah. Tablecloth, of course, is going to be cloth. Statues. For the most part, statues are going to be metal, but I actually want to add a little bit of, like, I don't know. Something to them, though. This is the right word to use?
Deposits.
Nope. Nope. Let's just fight. I want to find the right word for it.
Sediments.
Matter that settles to the bottom of the liquid threads. Nope. Something that's going to cover them. I don't know.
Alga.
No. There's no water in here, and there. And I don't know. Like, the problem is, I don't have enough information to actually figure it out what type of additional things could be like some type of a corrosion on the statue, because we don't know what actually is the Cybertron has some type of moisture in the air or not. So this information is kinda, I don't know. We don't have that information. Ideally, if we're actually going to create something and create some type of like damage or time changes in like incorporate some type of a time changes into the particular subject, we need to think about the world itself, the atmosphere, the yeah, definitely a lot of things we need to think about, but for this particular instance I don't think that we need to. It's just I could just go with some type of a, let's just see references and decide actually what we're going to put there. So let's just go quickly through the references. Actually, it actually doesn't seem like metal at all. And I don't think the statues are going to be metallic though. There's some kind of a wires in here that looks like lianas from the jungle. I don't know. No, actually, this is kind of a metal. Or some type of rock material. I think outside this definitely needs to be some type of a rock. We could go with something like half metal, half rock, because this is definitely doesn't look like metal, although it is metal, because rocks can't be shaped that way and actually move that way. So it's like the metal covered in some type of dust. Although this is actually not Cybertron, but whatever, it's a ship. And we could go with actually... Yeah, from here this is actually the clear metal. But in some places it doesn't look like metal at all. Okay, let's just go with... since statues are going to be Transformers, we definitely need to make them metal-like. Chairs. Again, since chairs is or are the Transformers' heads, they're metal too. Garbage piles, for the most part, from the metal, so they definitely going to be metal too. Same goes for piles of ashes, if I actually going to use them. I don't know. Again, it's pretty hard to actually destroy metal that way, to actually for it to produce some type of powder and become an ash. For the most part, metal is melts. Thinking about his physical attributes or properties. But ashes? We could go with some type of metal powder. It's actually possible. Yep, let's go with metal too. Quintessa, definitely metal, but she's going to be represented in completely different type of metal. So the fact that everything is metal don't make things easier. Swords, of course, are going to be made from metal. Gate. Gate 2. Oh, look at this, everything from metal. Of course, it's like logic, because for the most part Cybertron made from metal. We could actually create some type of a depiction of rock, some type of rock look. Balls, metal too. Metal. actually, let's just somewhere on the top. I wanna just create some type of a side note in here that metal actually going to be not just metal, it's just going to be a, I don't know, rocky metal. This is going to be interesting. Because again, this is an alien planet. I actually misspelled Rocky. Or not. No, I didn't. So yeah, it's going to be some kind of a rocky metal. And transformers are definitely going to be made from the actual metal, but everything else is going to actually have a little bit more rocky metal to them. So for instance, I could make this part rocky metal, and these plates are just metal. These things could be actually rocky metal, or it's actually going to look more like a rock than the metal itself. And in some places we could actually make this not metal itself, but don't look like metal. So it's actually going to have more rocky rock properties than metal properties, but we still need to think about it as a metal because it's going to have the diffused reflection to it, I think, and this diffused reflection, it's pretty hard to actually achieve in the rocks, although it depends what type of rock it is. But let's just actually go with the rocky metal. And copy this thing. So walls are definitely going to have this rocky metal to them, without a doubt. Gate, nope, gate not going to have that. Swords, clear metal. Quintessa, clear metal. Piles of ashes, changed metal, but still garbage piles, nope. Chairs, nope. Statues, nope. Tablecloth, floor and ceiling. Yeah, so floor and ceiling definitely going to have this one. So rocky metal.
Rocky metal.
Oh no. Hope it's saved. Okay. Background, I would say variables. For now, variant. And we're actually going to work on variant later. Fine. Nope. Huh? So I actually made this text on the wrong layer. Not a problem. Move it. Make it together. Material in form. Okay, there's a lot of thinking that goes into materials. Now let's just go into the hardest part. So it's, by the way, it's not the end. Let's just continue with these two. Teacups, teapot, and plates. For the most part, the metal for them is ceramics, I think.
Ceramics.
Yep. So for the most part, teacups, teapots and plates are going to be made from ceramics. Stand for sweets. The problem is, it's actually going to have a couple of materials in it, but for the most part, if I'm going to think about what type of material I would create for stand for sweets, this one's going to be probably metal. And yeah, let's just actually make it from metal. Yep. Metal. Metallic material. Sweets. Okay, sweets are actually going to have a lot of material variations, so I definitely can't combine them in one particular type of material. I'll just call it variant again. Beep, beam, 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 beam. Fruits. The same goes for fruits. Just call it variant. Oh no, I messed up the T. And protective board for teapot. Again, I don't know how it's called. So basically, this is the board on which teapot is stands. Don't know how it's called in English. So this is probably going to be a wooden. Yeah, let's just make it from wood, because for the most part, wood is the perfect choice to not absorb, but take heat. Well, we could call it absorb the heat from the wood. That was wrong. Okay. Let's go for the birds. Overall body. Again, we could go two ways. We could go and think about like actually shaved birds without feathers. That way, of course, they're going to have skin. But we're actually going to think about the appearance. That means that for the most part, feathers. So yeah, their overall body is actually going to covered in feathers. Oh, feathers. Feathers. Yep, exactly that. Right spelling? I guess yes. Beak and legs. Okay, beak and legs, actually, it's pretty complex material. For the most part, it's kind of a... Yeah, it's actually pretty complex material. It has translucency to it, slight translucency, which kind of creates subsurface scattering, depending on the light conditions. So for the most part, subsurface scattering works. So again, let's call it organic variant. let's call it organic variant. Oh no, we don't have enough place. What are we going to do now? Oh, food. Okay, eyes. Again, there's no material for the eyes. It's just like, again, some type of organic variant. It's going to have some type of moisture to it, which creates reflected feel to it. In some places it's actually transparent when we're talking about the iris. So there's a lot of things going on with the eye, so definitely it's going to be organic variant. Brows, for it's just a hair material. Hair. Although, since this is the angry birds, and actual birds don't have eyebrows, I think this is the human quality that they actually added to them to make them look like, I don't know, to put more expression to them, because without eyebrows it's pretty hard to actually convey the expression. Eyebrows, this is the most important thing for the conveying expression for the most part, because humans are pretty good in recognizing the particular emotions by looking at the eyebrows. Pretty quick. We just built this way. Built. Or designed. Combine layers. So yeah, just hair. I know something wrong with the clickability of the stylus. We don't have to see this drop thing. For some reason we see it. I think we need to actually save Krita. Yeah. It works normal now. Individual feathers. Individual feathers is just going to... It's actually in one subgroup, or in what group? Pretty close to hair. Let's see if I'm right. Yep. Feathers, hair, no, feathers, human hair, synthetic hair, short fur, long fur, fuzziness, some type of everything goes into the hair category. So, yep, definitely hair. Individual feathers, hair too. Actually, that means that feathers, hair too. Yep, let's just delete feathers. Or not. I don't know. No, let's just actually categorize things. So there's no such thing as feathers. Feathers will be a part of the hair. Yep. So let's just call our overall body hair. Specifics are going to be, of course, feathers. Okay, good. So we have organic variant, we have hair, we have wood, we have metal, we have cloth, and we have different variant. I would call it non-organic variant, but the problem is, like, fruits are actually like produced from organic things, so I don't know how to properly categorize them. Yeah, when I'm going to talk about organic variant, I'm just going to talk about something made from flesh, I don't know, and bone. And when I'm going to talk about variant, is something different. Basically not animal and human-like. Of course, inside fruits there's a lot of life too. In terms of sweets, I don't know, because sweets are actually made from a bunch of ingredients. Okay, let's just not overthink these things. We actually don't need this, but still. I like to think about these things because it kind of makes things more clear to me when I'm actually deciding in particular. Okay, what's next? What's next? And yeah, next we need to actually dive into material properties, which is going to be super complex. Oh snap. Let's hope my brain is not going to die during the session. Hello materials. Hello materials. So first, again, I'm not going to specify variants because they are variants. We're going to work on them last. I'm going to keep them for later. For now, we are going to work on something specific. So we're going to specify types of wood that we're going to use, type of clothing, type of metals. They're going to be different, and of course hair and these type of organic elements. Maybe sweets and fruits I will specify too, but I definitely can't specify this one because I still don't know what's going to be on the background in here. Again, I need to figure out to make this one light source, but at the same time showcase that something are there, some type of structures, maybe space, like cosmos, stars, and I don't know, we'll figure out this later. Okay, table. So wood, for the most part, wood actually it's pretty complex material. If we're going to break it down to the material properties, this type of wood that I'm going to use not going to be polished, so it's not going to shine, so it's not going to have reflective properties to it. So for now, let's just keep it matte. Like a matte surface, like not matte, but matte. But let's find out properly. Oh, come on. You gotta be kidding. Matte surface.
Matte surface.
Matte, yeah, not matte. So yeah, it's going to be for the most part matte surface, which is going to, for the most part, diffuse light. Yeah, diffuse light and absorb light. So whatever light is going to go through this to the surface, shine on the surface, this light is going to be diffused in the different directions and partially absorbed. This will help us in rendering stages when we're actually going to render everything. So for the most part, it's just going to be a matte material with matte material with a lot of textures to it. What type of textures though? There's two types of textures: surface textures and deep textures. Right here, we're actually going to work with a surface textures. Yep. Surface textures. Yep. What wood is just, it's more than enough information for us to actually render it. So we just need to render it as a matte surface and then just add surface texture to it to make it look like wood. That's kind of it. Good. Talking about the floor and ceiling, it's much harder. Actual floor and ceiling. This is a metal, but I want for this metal to actually look as like a little bit rocky, like some type of rock feel to it. So it means that for the most part it's going to have different properties. So it's going to be matte plus reflective, but matte plus reflective actually creates glossy. So maybe we actually need to break down glossy. But I actually wanted to nah, I need to create some type of matte look to it, but at the same time create some type of reflection. But reflection needs to be controlled. It's going to be diffused reflection. And again, when we're working with diffused reflection, it's glossy. So that means that matte and glossy. Glossy. Usually these two are excluding themselves, so it's rarely when we actually have object or subject that actually depicts both, because glossy is just basically transformed matte surface with the addition of reflectivity or diffused reflectivity. So I don't think that I need to actually showcase the matte in here. Let's just put glossy in here. Diffused. Oh, let's check out the spelling. Diffused. But again, glossy by itself, it's actually diffused reflection. So again, repeating myself, but for more clarification, I actually want to specify that it's actually super diffused. It almost doesn't look like metal. And of course, there's going to be texture to it. And texture is going to be surface texture too. So we'll actually create this rocky metal slash look. There's going to be some type of scratches on the metal, which will can tell us that this is actually metal, and some type of cracks are going to be present that will actually could suggest that this is a rock. Yep. Tablecloth. Okay. Cloth is completely different subject of. There's a lot of things when it comes down to clothes. It's most probably it's drapery of some kind. So let's just find what type of cloth it's going to be, just because we need to actually properly depict the properties of this cloth. I'm searching through my notes and actually trying to find it. So give me a little bit of a time. Sec. We're not going to consider super details like what type of sewing and what type of seams that are used in this type of cloth, but I wanted to keep it general, so I just want to find something that clarifies things. I forgot where I actually put it. Come on. I have a lot of notes. Searching through them, not the easiest thing to do. And also all these notes in Russian, so I kind of need to find them and then translate them right away. Type of it's actually in the properties of the fabric, and when we're actually going to talk about properties of the fabric, there's a lot of them. Is this a natural fabric or it's synthetic? What type of material for this fabric? How many? Is this a leather? Okay. I think we're going to go with cotton. Let's just go through the materials for the tablecloth. Material for tablecloth. Polyester or cotton, or the mixture of both. Oh, come on. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go to the cloth. It's super complex, actually, theme. I have a lot of notes to it for it, so let's just break down this to simplicity. Okay, let's just try to think how it looks. It's definitely not going to reflect anything, so there's no reflection to it. It's definitely going to absorb light. For the most part, I think we would think about it as the matte material, matte surface with texture. Because again, if I'm going to specify it like, is this a cotton or is this a polyester, or go into the specifics, we're just going to confuse ourselves. So let's just simplify things and think of the cloth the same way as we're actually going to think about every material. So matte, don't want it to be reflective, so it's just going to be straight tablecloth without any reflective or glossy coverage over it. So if something is actually going to be spilled on this cloth just for the most part is going to be destroyed, especially if it's going to be a coffee. or strong T, I don't know. Yep. So matte, no glossy, so it's going to be diffused, and with surface texture, which will actually make pretty easy to render it. What? Texturas. Okay. Okay, tablecloth is going to have matte material and surface textures on them. So different type of surface textures. We're actually going to think about what type of textures we're going to create. I don't know. I will think about it. Either it's just going to be something like this, or maybe something, I don't know, different. We're actually going to explore this when we're actually going to work with textures. Statues. So about statues, they're actually going to have pretty complex look to them too. Think. They're going to have reflectivity added to them, definitely. And sometimes this reflectivity actually going to look like a mirror in particular places, so strong reflection. In parts it's actually going to have a little bit glossy presence, so with diffused, but for the most part almost every part of the body going to have reflective surfaces to them. By the way, let's just launch our 3D model. I just kind of want to see, nope, not here. Where our 3D model? Meh. Don't see it. Please show me. Yep. Let's just open 3D model. Loading. Let's just continue to load. So yeah, this is our statue. How it's going to look. So again, when we're talking about the materials that actually go to present, plates are, I need to think how they're going to move too. So these areas are actually going to be made or matte surface. I don't want them to be reflective. So everything that actually bends, these areas in the hands, these areas under the knees or behind the knees, these areas, they all going to be matte. The armor areas definitely going to look reflective. So there's a lot of materials going to be in the statues. So reflective, matte. Probably in some places glossy. It's not going to be clear reflection. Big doo doo, steady bow bow bow. Yeah, I guess, yes. Of course, hands definitely not going to look metal-like. Right here, they're actually going to be reflective or maybe glossy, but from the inside, they have to be a little bit soft. Why it's not zooming? Okay, I guess we need to use mouse for it. Mouse, please move. We need to go closer to the yeah, I think for the most part these three type of materials is more than enough, and of course some type of a surface texture are going to be present. Yep, we don't have place for surface texture. Let's just shortcut it. Surf texture. Let's save though. Chairs. Again, chairs for the most part are going to be made from the transformers heads, so kind of the same. So we're just going to duplicate this one. The only thing that is going to change is the surface texture, because we actually going to create a little bit different type of surface texture. So on these broken transformers, we're actually going to put a lot of dirt, burns, and scratches. They actually have to look somewhat destroyed. These are actually going to look a little bit less destroyed now. More clean, I'd say. But we still need to create some type of surface texture that actually will represent that these statues are old, so they're actually standing there for a long period of time, maybe centuries. Again, if we want to showcase it, hello, surface texture. Or deep texture if it's going to be something. Again, difference between deep texture and surface texture: when we're actually working with surface texture, surface textures are not deep at all. So for instance, it could be some type of a pattern depicted on a plate with slight deepness to it. But if we're actually working with the deep textures, they completely will change the look of the surface that we're working with. So this is kind of considered a deep texture. Probably a bad example, but it's like two objects connected with one another. But it's going to look like one. So there's, if we actually add a little bit of softness to it. Deep textures and surface textures. Yeah, we could actually put somewhere deep textures, but for the most part, let's just think about them as a surface one. So again, garbage piles, it's just going to be a different type of metal. It actually will preserve the reflectivity. Actually, it's going to be the same, with slight variations of surface textures. Again, adding a lot of dirt to it, everything is going to be broken, cracks, bent metal, and everything is going to be added in these piles. Again, still don't know if I'm actually going to include piles of ashes, because ideally I wanted to create right here garbage pile with the broken transformer pieces, Right here I actually planned to create some type of a piles of ashes. Right here piles of ashes, and right here is piles of ashes. Or no, right here piles of ashes, piles of ashes, piles of ashes, broken parts, broken parts, broken parts, to create some type of, I don't know, zigzag movement. And I will still probably explore this one, but it's on later stages. For the piles of ashes, for the most part, that actually will lose reflectivity. Or no. No. If we actually some type of a like dissolve metal to the state of powder, let's just we'll break it down, the metal on the some type of powder. This powder actually will keep the reflectivity. It's just going to be not that visible. For the most part, it actually will become glossy. Yeah, it actually will look more glossy than reflective, because reflection actually pretty good visible for the most part on big surfaces. The bigger the surface, the clearer we could see the reflection. If we actually have small pieces, we are not going to see clear reflection, because every piece actually positioned in different direction. So these are the zoomed out pieces. Every piece looks different way, and that way it's not going to create clear reflection. For the most part, it's just going to look like glossy material. Although reflection is present, but it's not clear, so we can't necessarily say that this is a reflective surface. So it's reflective but super diffused, and diffusion just creates by these small pieces of the powder. Okay, glossy. I don't think, yeah. No, actually, there's not going to be a matte surface, because or no, let's just put it for now. How about surface texture? If we're actually going to look at this as a pile of poop, nope. This is not a pile of poop, which smells. No, if we're actually going to look at this as the pile of ashes, there's going to be a lot of dots in here, and I'm going to spend hours to actually put these dots in here, and my arm is going to die during this process. I actually respecting the artists who works with this type of renderings. They actually doing this. My stylus can't go that fast. This is awesome, but so yeah, when we are not going to look at this as the specific pieces, we're actually going to look at this as a whole. And if I'm going to look at this as a whole, I don't think that it's actually going to have a surface textures, and surface textures are actually going to be the small pieces of the powder. So basically powder is just going to look like texture, or the way to represent powder and is through suggesting the surface texture. If it's going to be deep or not, this is a question, because at some places probably could be a deep texture. Let's see. Does it qualify to actually be a deep texture or not? No, not enough. Deep texture is considered, let's see, 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 deep texture is they're super thick or thin. They have some type of length to them, some type of direction. Some type of grouping, some type of form. By the way, as deep textures usually qualified as something like this, for instance. Okay, this is a deep texture, which could be hairs or grass or something. So we have the basic shape on which these deep textures are presented. So don't think that our garbage pile or pile of ashes is going to look like this. So let's just go with surface material. Surface materialace o texture. Oh, I actually figured out the mistake. Texture? Really? Misspelled. Texture. At least I notice it sooner than later. Okay, glossy matte surface texture. That's kind of it for piles of ashes. Quintessa. Oh, hello Quintessa. Quintessa is going to have super complex material. She's actually going to have pretty interesting properties. Let's just find what properties I wanted to depict for the Quintessa. Come on, where they are? I had them closer to, and now I lost them. Yeah, hello there. Yeah, so basically Quintessa is going to have a iridescence quality or property to her material. This is actually going to completely change the look of her metal. It's just not going to be the basic metal. So it's just going to be Quintessa is going to change color depending on from what angle we are actually looking. From which angle we are looking at her. So she's not going to have like only one color. Iridescence will make sure of it. So again, for the most part, we're going to have the same set of things as right here, with addition, instead of glossy, we will put iridescence. Iridescence. We need to free space for iridescence. Pretty big word. How to properly spell it? Iridescence. Oh, we don't have enough time. Place. Surface textures are actually too big. Just make them super small. Iridescence. For the most part, iridescence could be present, for the most part, on reflective material or not. We will actually apply iridescence to reflective material, but of course iridescence could be depicted on matte material, even on transparent material. Not completely transparent, but with the transparency property, translucent and or not, I don't know. I think we could actually see these effects in the nature. For the most part, iridescence visible in a quick example where you could see it. Some birds have iridescence to them, bugs. Good example of transparent iridescence is, how it's called in English? Bubbles, yeah. Not just bubbles, but bubbles that made from soap. They actually have this iridescence quality to them. Also, petrol, yeah. Petrol or gasoline, some type of, in particular conditions, it actually has this iridescence at the edges, which actually change colors slightly. So yeah, that's it for now. So again, this is going to be a pretty different material. It's going to have, by the way, we have references that actually represents the iridescence in Quintessa. Where it is. It's super, it's pretty hard to actually to see this, but she actually changes colors depending from what angle we were looking at her. So right here it's kind of a greenish bluish, right here is blue. Some places it looks like violet. It's not strong, but it's present. But we don't have iridescence right here. It's just the reflections. Or maybe slight presence of iridescence could be present in here. I don't know. Definitely would not have, don't have iridescence in the Autobots. There was references that actually iridescence was shown pretty clearly. Right here maybe. By the way, she has different designs on every freaking shot. Right here she has one design. Somewhere right here she has completely different design. It's kind of killing me. Again, she's a transformer. I think she could transform herself. It's pretty similar design, but with some changes to it. So yeah, this type of material I actually picturing for the statues. It's like bronze with slight old feel to it. I probably actually created the same color for them automatically. Yep. It's a local color, of course, it's going to look better. And we actually paint it, we'll paint it. Okay. Iridescence. So yeah, I don't think that I will need to add iridescence to the Transformers statues. Again, these are the old Transformers. They're not made from a car or some type of earth machinery. Probably this is their regular state. That's why they don't look like on references. I decided to actually go something in between these statues and create something interesting. By the way, again, this one doesn't look like metal because it's so old and broken, so it's with rust on it, and it feels more like a rock than metal. That's what I mean by rocky metal. Right here iridescence, right here iridescence. And I think if you actually see her in shot, actual like movement, when she actually going to move, it's pretty clear that these things are actually iridescent. So everything like changing color depending on what type of move she's going to make. It's actually pretty good quality they added to Quintessa. It actually makes her somewhat intimidating or alien-like, because if we're actually going to look at creatures or that of our world that has iridescence to them, we'll look at them as something alien, because we didn't get used to these type of effects. We're not seeing them day by day. Something that we actually see rarely, only on summer when bunch of bugs are flying, in particular regions only, I think. Okay, I got distracted. So Quintessa done. Reflective matte surface, iridescence, and surface texture. Sword. For the most part, actually we got a couple of Transformers swords don't look metal-like. They actually has a lot of things to them. Actually had some type of reference. We could go with this stuff. This stuff actually looks metallic or glass-like. I don't know, more like glass in this particular shot. Nope. Okay, right, sword in here. Actually, Transformers sword don't look like metal at all. So it's not the regular metal look. Even here, like, it's metal is present, but not throughout the whole sword. Okay, let's just keep it again. In some places it's going to look like matte, glossy, reflective, and surface texture. By the way, these things could be considered as deep texture, but we will think about them as just additional elements. There are not that many of them, and I still don't know what I'm going to put in the designs of the sword. Definitely this is going to be a good reference for it. Okay, so again, sword has the same reflective matte. I want to call matte mate, which is completely wrong. Yeah, the same. Reflective, matte, glossy, and surface texture. Just different variation and in different combinations. So when we're actually having this like a lot of properties, we usually need to choose the dominant property, because they can't be dominant, because if we're going to have a lot of textures, reflectiveness is just not going to show. because again, in order to depict clear reflection, you need less textures, because as we talked about, creating a bunch of textures, it actually will kill the reflectivity of the object. The more textures, the less reflective object is, so good balance needs to be created between those. Matte surface and of course surface textures work fine. Glossy textures work fine, but again, less. A lot of glossy elements are going to be added. So for instance, if you are going to have some type of surface, on this surface, glossy element is going to depict it right here. Some type of diffused highlight is going to be depicted somewhere in here. But if we're actually going to break down it to the small texture surfaces, that way, and change slightly their direction. Not direction, but make sure that these are different. Glossy elements are going to be shown right here too, with additional. But again, it all depends on the material itself. We're still going to have like one big glossy feel to it, but it's actually going to be present in these small parts too. So adding a particular surface texture will completely change the glossy look. It's going to look a little bit differently. Completely, a little bit. Come on, man. Okay, gate. The same. Actually the same as the sword. The only change is going to be added is what type of element is going to be the most dominant. Some elements are going to look more matte, more matte than reflective, or more glossy than matte, or yeah. So they're still going to have all these properties to them, but one of the properties are going to be the most dominant. And I think we will figure out this only when we're actually going to paint them, because it's pretty hard to actually like figure out this, and at this particular point a lot of things to work with. And the fact is that every material has these properties. We need to choose them properly to balance them properly. For instance, if we are going to choose a dominant reflective property for the transformer in here, we can't choose dominant reflective property for the wall, because it will make them too similar. We need to create contrast in places that we need to create contrast by choosing different dominance. So for instance, right here in the wall, we could choose a matte as dominant property, slightly depict glossiness or reflection in edges, for instance, or in particular places, slightly showcase the texture. It's not going to be a strong texture. Right here, a lot of textures. Again, contrast between a lack of textures and a lot of textures. So there's a lot of things to think about when we're actually going to work with this. So that's why it's pretty hard to think through all these things. Most of these elements are going to work at the end. And this information actually will help me to make the right choices, because right now, by analyzing this, again, it definitely will help me. Walls. Thinking about walls. Again, this is the special metal, which will going to look like rocky metal. So for the most part, it's just going to be matte and with surface textures on them. Okay, too many layers. Copy paste, drag it down. and it actually will create pretty good contrast. So for the most part, floors, no, wait a minute. Mistake. Actually, this is closer to what we want. Glossy diffused surface texture for the walls. We're kinda almost done with time. Aw. Should I extend the session? We have like 4 minutes. I definitely not going to finish in 4 minutes working with ceramics, metal, for the sweets and all these variants. There's a lot of work that needs to put in these type of elements, because fruits are going to have translucency to them, or subsurface scattering added to them, sweets too, and there's a lot of things. And right here it's going to go even more complex, especially when we're going to talk about organic variants. So I think we will leave it for the other session, because it's not a smart thing to do to start this now. Yeah, so let's just sum up things. Again, still need to figure out how the background is going to be represented. This is actually something that I don't have a clue how to depict. For the most part, I'm seeing background as something. I'll just find particular Cybertron. Yeah, so I want to combine this feel from the gate and this type of background for the gate, which is going to be super hard thing to do, because if we're actually going to create this fog feeling, it will cover most of the things behind it. So this is a hard thing to do. And if I'm just going to choose this so-called nebula feel to it, it's not going to be light enough to perceive it as the light source. So that's why I'm actually having the problem, because it needs to look, it has to have this value to it, so this light value, and actually we need to perceive it as a light source, but at the same time I kind of want to depict something that's something present behind this light source. So I definitely will dive into references outside of the transformers, because we need to figure out something for it. It's definitely going to be an interesting thing to do. Yeah, for the most part I think, yeah, like this type of glow I want for the gate to be represented, and we actually could see something in here, but it's going to be just suggestions. That's something out there, but it's not going to be clear. Yeah, like for instance right here we have like some type of glow, but we still see something in there, enough to suggest depth, that besides what we're seeing in front of us, there's a lot of there's a deep world that goes, just for the sake of creating depth. Definitely going to be an interesting balance. And also, like, as we see, there's not a lot of atmosphere in the Cybertron, which kind of creates a problem, because there's not, this atmosphere actually not present at all. In some places it's pretty, it works like actually on Earth. Like for instance, you see in this one I could say, yeah, there's an atmosphere to it, but right here, no atmosphere. I know that this is the film shots that made specific way to look properly in the specific conditions. they're pretty different. Whatever. So yeah, I think on that note we will just wrap up the session. Again, a lot of things to do still. I hope that throughout the next session I will actually, no, I hope, not hope, I actually will definitely finish the working with the material properties for table accessories and for the birds. And after that, I think we will, oh, by the way, I know what I'm going to put here as a material, like 100%. Emission, or luminous, so-called luminous. What? Yeah. Luminous. So it just has to work like emission, something that emit light or shines light through it. So this is definitely the material property that I want for the background to have, and the rest I will figure out. Exactly that. So yeah, and after we actually will finish with materials, we actually going to work with lighting. We already know where our light sources are. Again, we have the, forget where our thing is. Let's find it. Find it. Yeah, so we're going to have our primary light source, again, is going to be on top, is going to shine on our transformers or on Angry Birds from the top. It's going to act like a spotlight. Sun shines through the hole in the ceiling. This is going to be our primary light source. Secondary light source, again, is going to be the area light from the atmosphere, which is going to shine from this one. That's actually our luminous thing. Then our tertiary light source, which is going to look like point lights, and these are going to be the piles of fire or on fire. This one is going to be a primary inside tertiary. This is going to be a secondary inside tertiary. This is going to be a tertiary inside tertiary, and this is going to be a additional inside tertiary. Yep. And by level of intensity, of course, the one level or primary is going to shine the brightest. It's going to impact more area with this light source. And the cool thing is actually to what we're going to do next after we actually finish the work with materials, we actually will try to sketch how these lights are going to interact with our characters. So, nope, where it is. I want to find example. So yeah, it's actually going to look a little bit more like something like this. Slightly is going to be rendered. Slightly. I don't want to dive into rendering too much at this point, but still I want to actually figure out the darkest darks for particular values, lightest lights for the particular values. So everything will actually start to look like a shaped form inside the light conditions or whatever. Yeah, I'm starting to mumble and rumble, whatever. So let's just actually end this session. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. have a nice day or night, and see you in the next creative session. Bye bye.